welcome to the Frenzy Extra. Andy Lacombe here with you again with Jim Wilson, sports editor, Worcester Telegram and Gazette, Home Team Magazine, and Kevin Shea, sports director, man about town from Charter TV3.
Man of mystery.
Man of mystery. We are, guys, this is what coming up? Was this week seven?
Yeah.
Coming up in the regular season. Playoffs not set yet, but teams solidifying their
Looking
positions here over the last week. Jim has been crunching numbers with his mathematician.
Like Goodwill Hunting with the board. I'm just like,
Yeah, he's got it all sorted out. But we'll try to sort it out for everybody at home here, and we'll start at the top in Division III, where, I mean, if you look at it, Doherty, St. John's, Shrewsbury, Wachusett, it looks like it's pretty set, especially with St. John's beating Shepherd Hill. Shepherd Hill's the team in fifth spot.
Wachusett beat Shepherd Hill last week.
Wachusett beat them. So it looks like that's set, and
it looks like
that's where they will fall 1 through 4.
It's like 13.17 points for Wachusett and 8.43 for Shepherd Hill. I think that's too much for them to overcome. But like I said, that's why I hate doing this, because the math is always weird, where it's like, oh no, it's like I think we counted Leicester out, and like, oh, you look at it, look at the math again, the way it happened in 2 weeks. Like, no, if they win out and then they beat Oxford head to head, they might have enough juice to do it, because that Millbury win last week bumped them up. So I don't want to say no, and then I have it, I reserve the right to be wrong.
Right. Well, and this is also, we're saying this with the caveat that we think the teams are going to win.
Exactly.
Like, we think those top four are going to win the remainder of their games, and that's why we're saying this.
The only thing you're playing for is dropping
proceedings
position.
right now. Doherty's 1, Wachusett's 4, Shrewsbury St. John's 2-3. That's exactly. I'd like them to stop right here and stay in. I want rematch in the first round of the playoffs. Both of those games were awesome the first time they played. I think they'd be great again when they play again in the playoffs.
We all have Doherty 1 in Central Mass. Of this 4, who's playing the best right now?
I would say you got to, until they're knocked off, Doherty's still the team to beat. They're still the team. But in terms of who's grown maybe the most, I think St. John's has grown the most, but because they had a brand new quarterback, where Doherty had Vassar to start the season, they had Callery, who was a veteran, they had Fortson. So these guys are doing what they've done all season long. Where St. John's, I think, the offense was all brand new pieces for St. John's. So Schofield has gotten a lot more comfortable with that offense. I think the receivers have gotten more comfortable. They know what role each guy can play on the team. And in terms of growth, that team has grown a ton since the first couple of weeks. And by the way, the first couple of weeks, they played 2 of the best teams in the state.
Yeah. Well, and I saw St. John's last week against Shepherd Hill, and they moved the ball up and down the field. Shepherd Hill moved the ball pretty well against the Pioneers. But even with Amon Dennis not in the lineup, there's just so many guys
that's even better.
in the toolbox for St. John's.
That's why I think St. John's is playing better now, because I think they've had a tough schedule all year. They've lost Dennis for an injury for the last 2 weeks, and they're playing, just like I said, Shepherd Hill, Wachusett. They're playing all these teams that usually give them a hard time. They're coming out with wins. Dory, through no fault of their own, they've had South. They have North this week. They close out with North Middlesex. And so it's like games they should win, and games, if all goes according to plan, their stars are playing 2 to 3 quarters.
That hurts.
I think it does hurt.
No, that does hurt. They had the sophomore quarterback shown in the first quarter last week. They had it. He was halfway through the first quarter, and Sean Mulcahy had emptied his bench, which was the right thing to do, because you don't want to run the score up, but it does hurt your starters because they don't get that time in there. But having said that, I love Vassar. I love the way he plays. I love the way Callery plays. But it does hurt later in the year, and particularly with your linemen. If your linemen are not getting a full game in, or your linebackers, and all of a sudden now 3 weeks later you have to play a full game, and you haven't had one in 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be winded in the second half.
Right, and I think Doherty has the athletes to compete with any one of those teams in Division III. I mean, whatever rankings they fall into at the end of the year, Doherty will match up well, and they'll give teams issues. And I think I'm just worried about them all of a sudden going from 0 to 60 from having sophomores playing at the end of North Middlesex game to all of a sudden, okay, we got Wachusett next week. Let's get up for this all again.
Right.
Can they do it? Because they have the athletes. It's just a matter of what game faces they have coming on that week.
Yeah, Wachusett's playing good football right now.
Very good football.
They're playing great
football.
football.
St. John's lost, and they got fired up and re-energized. The old ball coach said some things, I'm told, in the huddle and in practice. Coach Dubs' dad. So, they might be right where they want to be.
Yeah, I think they are.
In that 4th spot. All right, let's go to Division 4, where Neshoba is still the king right now in the division, with Grafton, Tantascwa, and Marlborough all in playoff spots after 6 weeks of football. Westboro is right there with a win, and a really good win over Fitchburg. So they've leapfrogged Fitchburg. They're in that 4th spot. Westboro, devil's advocate, plays Wachusett, and if somehow
Westbrook plays Shrewsbury and
Shrewsbury, sorry, somehow if they get a win in either of those games,
that's going to give them some points. Because they get the
that's
bonus
gonna give
points
them a
for
lot
playing
of
Division
points.
3,
Yeah.
and then they get those wins they collect on the wins from the other team.
yeah, it's a big if because those two
Right.
teams are two of the
Remember,
top
Westboro's
4 teams.
dangerous. Westbrook's playing really well right now. Like,
Right.
You can mention that Fitchburg win they had. Fitchburg's coming off that win over in Marlboro the week before. They came in, they handled Fitchburg, and
Yeah.
I think Dave Tingeloff and that coaching staff has those guys ready.
Yeah. No, I think
They're
they've
not
done
going
a
to be
great
worried.
job.
They're not going to be scared going into the next 2 weeks.
No, they won't. And one thing that they do, if you're looking for an upset, they run the ball really well. And if you're going to upset a team that's above you, you need to run the ball. You need to control the line of scrimmage and control the clock. And if they can do that against Wachusett or Shrewsbury, again, a heck of a lot easier said than done. But that's how you can pull off an upset, not just going in there saying, well, we're going to sling it all over the field, but controlling the clock, controlling the line of scrimmage. And that's what Westboro did to Fitchburg.
And they turned over, they had 2,000-yard rushers and a 1,000-yard passer from a year ago.
Yeah.
And they're doing it now with a younger group, and it's a heck of a job.
And all those teams above Westboro in that playoff race. And Neshoba plays Wachusett and Shrewsbury to close the season out.
Yeah.
Grafton plays Auburn and Northbridge. Tantasco plays Northbridge and Bartlett. I mean,
Yep.
there's some chances for those teams to get absorb losses, and they can sort of sneak in there. Marlboro's got North Middlesex, St. John's. They're not, they can sneak in.
Grafton actually, statistically in a dead heat with Tantasco, even though they lost
They got a tiebreaker, but in
Right.
2 weeks that's going to change. Those
Right.
they're not going to be tied going in.
But it shows what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. Grafton
Right.
beats Uxbridge, who's got a couple of wins. Tantasco beats Southbridge in a rivalry game, but Southbridge doesn't have any wins to show
Right.
for it. And so that it gives them a little bit of an edge there. All right, so pretty good matchups there, but there is some drama there in that 4th spot. Marlboro, Westboro, maybe Fitchburg.
They could.
They have South and North Middle. Groton Dunstable coming up this week. All right, Division 5 is Northbridge at the top with Nipmuc, Oakmont, and Burncoat in that 4th spot. Auburn is 5th, Worcester North an outside shot at 6th. Northbridge is undefeated, and they were a surprise team after, 3 weeks when we started this show?
I heard a lot of stuff early in the season about how Northbridge are good, but they're not the Northbridge, or the exclamation point they have at the end.
Right.
They've developed a couple injuries to some key guys. It doesn't matter to them. They're just next man up.
It's
Let's
incredible.
go.
It's incredible. When you think of how small that school is, too, that's a tiny school. I mean, they have, I don't know if they even have over 200 boys in the school. They may be in the mid 100s, around 150, 160. It's such a tiny school, and for them to absorb losses to your quarterback position, some of your guys that are starting both ways, and you just plug a new guy in, Zach Roberts, and Coach LaChapelle's the best. He's the best at just, hey, we'll plug him in. We'll put pressure on the opposing defense. I'm going to have this kid run. I'm going to have him throw. We'll design the offense and the passing scheme that's going to fit his strength. But we're going to put pressure on the D, and we'll run him, and we'll do this. And here they are, undefeated, beating great teams week after week.
Yeah.
Defense.
Yeah,
And you're right, the
always.
defense is, no, but look at it. They've got shutouts. They're giving up 7, 8 points a
9.2
game.
points a game.
It's crazy.
Again, how many times have we been on this show and talk about Northbridge? Because obviously you talk about the offense, because that's what Coach Losh has done forever.
Right.
Is innovative offense, putting points on the board. But that defense, Steve Falcon and those guys, they shut teams down, and they don't. So it's fine if they score 40 points a game, but you're only giving up 10 points maybe.
Right.
I feel bad picking them because I just can't pick blowouts.
This
Yeah,
guy-
I always think, they're going to score 21 points. And I know they're not going to score 21 points, but I have to do it because I'm a nice guy at heart.
This guy this guy Falconer knows what he's doing.
He absolutely
Over there.
knows what he's doing.
This is a defense, the statistics-wise, you'd have to look, that mirrors the defense and what they were giving up a couple of years ago when they won a state championship. And they're doing it with different personnel. Nipmuc's right there at number
Young
2.
kids.
I think Nipmuc's exactly where they want to be.
Yep.
Get to where you need to go, try to win that first-round game, and then try to get Northbridge in a rematch. And with Brony and the guys that are going,
it out. They're looking.
I like
they're
where
getting
Nipmuc-
healthy.
And I'd love to get that speech.
yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that be fantastic?
The speech we didn't hear in the
It would be
Nipmuc game,
awesome.
outstanding. All right, we gotta roll through a little bit. Division 6, Maynard, Littleton, Millbury, and Tingsboro. BMR is kind of always there, and they're right there in the mix with Tingsboro in that 4 spot. And
Tingsboro going to Oakmont this week. It's going to be a tough game for
that'll
them.
be a tough one. Millbury coming off that loss. They have Auburn in one of their weeks coming up.
Next
That's
up, after Bartlett this
That's a
week.
huge game. And Bartlett, and segueing to Bartlett in Division 8, that's a big game for them this week against Millbury because they have 2 tough games coming up.
Division 6 team.
And so they need wins to get in Division 8. As you look down in 7, it's West Boylston, BVT, Assabet, and Oxford. Leicester's there. We'll talk a little bit more about that division, I think, when we start our next break. We'll take a break now, so you guys can rest, and we'll talk a little bit more. And we have big games coming up this week in Week 7, believe it or not, and we're going to finish our discussion of the power ratings and the playoffs when we come back on the Frenzy Extra.
Coming up this week on the Friday Night Football Frenzy, it's the Accountant Classic as Neshoba travels to the mountaintop to battle Wachusett. Northridge heads west as the Rams visit Tantascwa. It should be a physical one when Auburn travels to Grafton. And the Seahawks go for the upset as Algonquin hosts St. John's. The Frenzy on Charter TV3. The Frenzy is presented by the law offices of Joseph J. Cariglia and Bay State Savings Bank. Local news from Central Massachusetts for Central Massachusetts.
A Grafton man faces a judge Wednesday. Police say he stole a puppy from a local animal shelter.
A pedestrian was hit around 11:30 this morning on Main Street.
A car rollover in Worcester slows down traffic on Interstate 190.
Reporters in the field. And an in-depth local forecast. Worcester News tonight on Charter TV3.
All right, welcome back. We are continuing our discussion of the playoffs and the power ratings going into Week 7 and in Division 6. It is Maynard, Littleton at the top with Millbury and Tingsboro in the 3 and 4 positions right now. But you've got Blackstone, Millville, Hopedale right there, just maybe 3-4 tenths out of that 4th spot. Tingsboro. BMR is a team that's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. They've got some quality wins. They've got some tough opponents. St. Bernard's one of them coming up.
Yeah, that's Tingsboro has Oakmont, BMR has St. Bernard's this weekend, so it'll be a key thing. I mean, even if they both take L's, what comes on? You're looking at Hudson, Tingsboro in the final week, and then North and BMR. North is not going to be an easy task for BMR.
No.
So
it's going to come down to percentage points.
It's going to come down to what's going on in other fields. Where do they pick? Hey, we beat this team. They gave us 2 points. That's how we hung on.
Conceivably, you could have 2 3-5 teams in there, and a 3-5 team getting into the playoffs on points.
Yeah.
Or both be 5-3.
Then a 5-3 team saying, "Why aren't we in the playoffs?" These guys are. Then that old chestnut.
All right. Well, so and Harold Ogilvy and Maynard, they're just kind of a wagon.
And they play Littleton.
They're big. Littleton
game.
games be a big black and blue game for them. It's a good test for Maynard. Another one of those teams that they're looking for this and they want validation and how nobody's talking about us and going over Littleton. A lot more people open their eyes on them.
Huge. And it's bragging rights, and it's who has the edge mentally going into the playoffs. Because those two could meet for the
They could
for
meet
the
again
title,
for the championship.
for the division championship.
At 6-0 in Division 7, Mike Ross doesn't want anyone talking about West
That's
Boylston,
true.
but they are in with Blackstone Valley Tech, Assabet, and Oxford in the top 4 spots. Air Shirley is sitting in 5th, and Leicester is just, at 3.5 percentage points or rating points out of that 4th spot. Leicester was ruled out a couple weeks ago. Mathematically, they might be back.
I'm putting give me my Twitter. I'll put my Undertaker gif on the coming up from that. They just came right back from the dead to give that big win over Millbury, a game they were down 21-0 at halftime. They came back, whatever halftime speech is colorful from Griff and those guys. I'm sure it sparked them because they came back in that second half and they stunned them. And Millbury is still a good team, but that win gave them a ton of power ranking points because of Millbury's record and their bonus. They get the bonus for playing up. So that jumped them back into it. They both win out this week. They have a head-to-head match the last week of the season. That's going to be a great one.
And with Oxford head-to-head.
Oxford
and
head-to-head.
that could be winner goes in.
It could be winner goes in.
Which would be great if it is. I mean, that's the way it should be. It should be winner goes in. And then that way you can throw all the discussion out about we play who and you play who. It's just, hey, we're going to meet on the field. The winner goes, and the loser goes into the also-rans.
Right,
playing out the string.
Playing for our friends and family.
Yeah, playing out the string. One thing, too, I would say for West Boylston, remember this, Rossi will give a lot of credit, too, but Jeremy Frisch, remember in the spring, they didn't have a weight room in the beginning of the summer and the spring for what is a couple months. They didn't have a weight room in their school. The kids had nowhere to go. Jeremy Frisch runs Achieve Performance Training in Clinton. He's a former Central Mass standout, played at Worcester State. The kids all went there, and they worked out there, and it made a huge difference. Mike Ross said these kids made huge strides when they were working with Frisch. And you know him, Cole McCoubry worked out with Frisch his whole career. But that made a big difference. And that kind of goes under the radar here. Like, okay, if the kids had nowhere to lift or some of them lifted and some of them didn't, That would make a big difference when you're talking about a couple months.
I can't talk to Flanny without Jeremy Frisch being brought up.
Yeah.
It's like a
Oh,
mind
Fred is
blower.
awesome. He is awesome. I'm telling you.
I'm just making up Kevin looking for a place to work out for
Right.
free.
That's right.
I'm telling you, I
drops
do.
Frisch
I love Jeremy
like all the
Frisch.
time.
He is awesome.
I want to see video. You just lift up the big tires.
You know,
I wouldn't be able to do anything that those kids do that Frisch has them do.
the
But he's
sledgehammer on the
great.
big monster truck
Yeah,
tires.
Exactly.
Hey,
pumped and jacked.
Blackstone Valley Tech's playing good football. Arch gave a speech on Friday night. It was awesome. We've watched it 4 or 5 times ourselves. He's got it all mapped out for his guys. He's got them fired up. He doesn't really care if he's given bulletin board material to anybody else because he's got confidence in his guys, what they can do. It's really what they do on the field.
That's
Should
what
be
you
an
want.
interesting couple of
What
weeks.
kid doesn't want to play for a guy like
Yeah.
that? And don't give me the cream puffs. Well, not cream, because we all have the cream puffs.
Right. Cream
Wrong
puffs,
choice of words.
Right.
No,
But,
because I know what you're talking
yeah, but I want a coach that believes in me.
Yeah.
You know, I want some guy. I'm going to run through a wall for that guy.
And that's what you and I were talking about that this morning. That's what we said. You want to play for Archie, and I love that Archie's brash. I love that he says, oh, these are the teams in front of us. We're going to beat this one. We're going to go to Gillette. We're going to beat this one. I think it's awesome. And he instills that self-confidence in his guys. And you're right. You want to run through a wall for Archie if you play for him. And he backs it up. And I love the fact that he wants to play tough competition. He wants to play the best teams. He doesn't duck anyone. He wants to change his whole schedule around so he can play tougher competition. And rightfully so. He has changed the way that vocational schools are looked at because it was always, we'll have a Voc Bowl for you. Well, Archie says, I don't want that. I don't want. He's like Bill Belichick with the AFC Championship trophy. Give that away as quick as you can. I'm playing for Gillette. I'm playing for a state championship.
All right,
and that's where they've been.
Let's go to Division 8, and then we got to get to some other things. Lunenburg, St. Bernard's, Narragansett, and Murdoch are the top 4. Bartlett's got a shot at in the 5th spot.
Bartley beats Millbury this week.
They got Millbury, and I think they have Tantasco, right? So they have a tall road.
They have a tall road, but if it's on them. If they win,
Yeah.
they have a good shot. They can overjump Murdoch.
Yeah, I would
Murdoch's
think.
got Lunenburg and West Boylston.
Right.
That's
So-
gonna be they're chumming the water right there for Bartlett. If they
Again-
do their jobs and
Right.
get some luck.
Again,
Maybe win one of those two. What if they win one of the two? Because they're both up.
Right.
Yeah.
Either one of those games is playing a division up. If you win one of the two, maybe do they?
I'm saying, I
And
tell all the
Murdoch
coaches.
plays up, though.
Murdoch plays up.
You're right.
Too, so
Lunenburg and then one up,
it's
right?
percentage
Yeah.
points and what
What
was
was
happening in other
Other
places.
fields.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. All right.
Scoreboard
A
watching.
couple minutes to look at what we'll be looking for this week. Neshoba Wachusett, the game that affectionately known as the Accountant Bowl, to our producer Sean Grady. Who wins and why this week, Jim?
You know what? I think it's tough. I'm probably going to go. I'm hung into it a couple days early. I'm going to go with Neshoba because I respect what they've done. I think they're going to be ready for this game. Both defenses are great. It's one of those games where the offense it's going to be a 21-14 game. One of those games because those defenses are just nasty on both sides. And I think so. Sam Belinsky had a great game at quarterback from Neshoba the other day. I think that could carry him over Wachusett. But Wachusett, man, they're just so good. They've been tested. It's going to be a battle. Again, I love these games because you really don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
I'm
can
guessing-
you stop Alex Child or can you stop Sam Brewer?
Yeah.
Can Neshoba stop Sam Brewer and can Wachusett stop Alex Child? Because each team is going to do the same thing. We want to stop the run first and make the other team one-dimensional. And if they do that, then they're going to say, okay, well, we're playing. Now they're doing something they don't want to do, throw first instead of
Right.
run first. Because both teams want to establish the run first.
Exactly.
I'm guessing you'll have that game. It's close to home. And
Hopefully.
it's a big.
If
It's a
Sean
big-
Grady hears this.
it's a big game. Northbridge Tantasco. Northbridge is undefeated. They stay undefeated after they play Tantasco.
This is a tough one to take because the Tantasco's win over Grafton. Early in the season, I would say, okay, yep, Northbridge is going to win this game.
Exactly.
But because Tantasco's win over Grafton, that to me now this becomes a toss-up.
Such a
Complete
confidence game
toss-up.
for them. Such a confidence game for that coaching staff and what they've been telling the players all year. Then to see what they've been telling them all of a sudden come true.
Right.
The way they beat Grafton too, great team, goal line stand, come
Right.
back. Grafton come back and answers. They stop them on a fake field goal. It's a big win for them. Now they're not scared going to Northbridge. Put it that way.
No.
In the past, week 2 or 3, you might have this game getting played. I'd take Northbridge by 2 touchdowns.
Right.
But now, end of the season, these guys playing with confidence. Northbridge coming in pretty good.
And Grafton's a veteran team. Remember who they stopped?
Oh,
Holbrook
yeah.
at quarterback. I mean, the running back situation there, this is talent.
So both of you are picking Tantasco. All right.
I'm going Northbridge.
I said toss. Always
right,
going
toss
Northbridge.
up.
I'm sorry, I love you, Tantascwa,
Awesome.
but I got to go Northbridge.
All right,
I'll go Tantascwa just so we
There you
go
go.
opposite.
Yeah, I disagree with both of you.
That's
Nobody
right.
wins.
Be a tie.
Yep, a tie.
Frenzy
Welcome to the
5,
NFL.
Frenzy 5, quick time for that, and it's basically the same for us. All right, nothing, no major changes.
Nothing
No.
changes.
No major
I
changes.
get Neshoba, Wachusett in my 4 and 5.
And Kevin has.
I go watch you, Neshoba,
then
and we'll see.
Neshoba.
We'll see
what
this week,
happens.
right?
You're
what
wrong.
happens.
I just-
Right. They'll decide it
Over
on the
the top.
field.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next week. Who is laughing next week between the three of us? Neshoba, Wachusett, Littleton, Maynard, Blackstone, Millville, St. Bernard's. We mentioned Northbridge, Tantascwa as well, and Narragansett, West Boylston coming up this week. The big games we'll be watching for you on the Friday Night Football Frenzy. That's the quickest 2 segments in
I know.
sports right there with Jim Wilson and Kevin Shea. Jim, we'll see you next week.
Can't wait.
Thanks for being here again.
I love it.
Appreciate it.
Looking
We've got some
forward to
great parting gifts for you
it.
as you
Carl's
walk up.
I always get the catered stuff. That's only on Friday nights.
That's what we're gonna get Carl's in
maybe
here
next
Just
time.
put some in Tupperware.
Next
Friday.
time we'll
I'm
have
not-
some
I'm
nice
not looking
board
at me.
games.
If
Maybe
it
some
doesn't look
maybe
like
the
I'm
board
picking.
game clue for you.
Oh, there we go.
Kevin and I are back,
Colonel Mustard.
and we're talking college football on the Extra when we get back.
Coming up this week on the Friday Night Football Frenzy, it's the Accountant Classic as Neshoba travels to the mountaintop to battle Wachusett. Northridge heads west as the Rams visit Tantascwa. It should be a physical one when Auburn travels to Grafton. And the Seahawks go for the upset as Algonquin hosts St. John's. The Frenzy on Charter TV3. The Frenzy is presented by the law offices of Joseph J. Cariglia and Bay State Savings Bank. Local news from Central Massachusetts for Central Massachusetts.
A Grafton man faces a judge Wednesday. Police say he stole a puppy from a local animal shelter.
A pedestrian was hit around 11:30 this morning on Main Street.
A car rollover in Worcester slows down traffic on Interstate 190.
Reporters in the field. And an in-depth local forecast. Worcester News tonight on Charter TV3.
All right, welcome back. We're in College Corner now, and we're starting talking about the team we saw on Saturday, Assumption, with a thrilling come from behind at times win over Southern Connecticut State, and it was in overtime.
Yeah.
And it didn't look good at points, but they get a win, and now they have the Iron coming up.
Yeah, it is. It's just win, baby. Al Davison. This was a great win, though, for this Assumption program. It was a walk-off win at home against a league opponent, so they're undefeated in the league. They're taking on New Haven this week. New Haven is undefeated in the league. And remember, there is no league playoffs this year for the NE10 at the end of the season, so whoever wins the regular season gets the automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. So a lot riding on this week as they gear up for New Haven and get ready to play another big game.
Thing about football is that we treat everything as a one-game season. We came off a nice emotional victory in a hard-fought game against a good Southern football team. Now it's time to turn the page and get ready for our next opponent, New Haven, coming up this Saturday. They're a very, very strong football program this year. They have players at every position that are going to present challenges for us on offense, defense, and special teams. So our guys are ready for the moment, and I think their preparation will prove out this week that they're good to go for Saturday. We didn't play our best football game, and part of it was because Southern, came after us pretty hard and challenged us, and we made some mistakes that we haven't made this year. So, we learned a little bit about ourselves in the gut check that we needed to take, and to understand, hey, we're going to take it one play at a time, make sure that we're physical, execute our assignments, and then ultimately in the end, if we take care of our own business, then we'll be in good shape at the end of the game. And that's how it turned out on Saturday. If we do a good job of taking care of our business, we give ourselves a chance to win every football game. Now, we're going to come across good football teams who are going to take the same approach, but we're not going to live and die based on the quality of the opponent or the hype around a football game, because that is a distraction to your preparation. We want to stay focused on what we can control, and that's our business.
So Assumption will be ready for New Haven this week, and then in 2 weeks it is LIU Post. So it is the top 2 teams in the league besides themselves that they will play in the next 2 weeks, and then they close out the year with Bentley and Stonehill. The Hounds looking to keep their train rolling on that undefeated track in league play.
Holy Cross football team coming off a heartbreaking loss to Harvard. Crusaders came all the way back in this game, only to fall in the closing seconds to the Crimson. It is a bye week this week for Bob Chesney's group. Maybe a good time to reflect, refresh, get ready for that closing stretch of Patriot League games where the Crusaders would like to do some damage and finish the season on a high note.
Time you're one end something, when there's a little bit of a break, it comes as a welcome, a welcome addition here to your schedule. But I think, the morale is high. It's been high. It's been high the entire time from camp all the way through the practices. I think they believe in it. They know what they're doing. I think they're in position to do it. We're just coming up a little bit short. At this point in time, we've seen a bunch of things in the run game. We've seen a bunch of things in the pass game that we have to just tighten up a little bit on both sides of the ball. And then we just have to take our biggest mistakes to date, or the things that seem to be repetitive mistakes, and just correct those. So we'll do a lot of scout stuff throughout the week where we'll be mimicking big plays that we had against us, and cost us a drive offensively, or, put points on the board when we were on defense, and we'll be just seeing if we're any better.
So after the bye, Holy Cross takes on Lehigh, and is a game you will be able to see right here on Charter TV3. 4 straight in the Patriot League, 4 wins, gets the Crusaders 5 on the year. That'd be a pretty good number to shoot for right now. All right, we're moving down the line a little bit to Nichols. They're 4-3. The Bison got a big win over Becker this past weekend.
Yeah, it was good for them. They had a pick 6 in the game, so their defense creating some offense and creating some points. The offense moving along, and a lot of it done with these transfers that they've gotten recently, including former Northbridge star Jake Wood.
With the addition of quarterback Mike Pena, he took over this year. Transfer from Mount Ida has certainly fit right in. He won over the starting position during camp and has never looked back. I think in one game actually he had 5 touchdowns, 2 throwing, 3 rushing. Is certainly fit in both on and off the field. Jake Wood's been a great addition. Again, someone that we recruited early on that had a tremendous Super Bowl with Northbridge and ended up winning it. Went to Stonehill, was great there as well. But he wanted to get a little bit more locally, and he came back to us, and it's been nothing but a great person both on and off the field. First game, immediate impact, 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown. We put him at wide receiver, we put him at running back. Wherever he can to find the ball, wherever we can put him to get him the ball is what we're looking to do.
Bison still with plenty of work to do, but Dale Olmsted's confident his group is going to be around in November to contend for a conference title. All right, let's go to the Alumni Dean's List now, and we start with Drew Jean Guillaume. Oh, enchanté. Central Connecticut, 203 yards rushing, touchdown against Bryant. DJG is starting to make the Dean's List every week now. Tyus Boykin, we saw him for Assumption against Southern Connecticut. 36 yards and an acrobatic touchdown in the win for the Hounds. Andrew Carpenter out of Auburn at Westfield State. 11 tackles to lead the team, a fumble recovery against Fitchburg State. John McGuigan in the win for Nichols, the Shepherd Hill guy, 10 tackles against Becker. The Q, Kieran Wright, back on the Dean's List for Framingham State, the former Holy Name star. 50 rushing yards, 111 receiving yards, a dual threat with a touchdown against Plymouth State. And then Flynn McGilvery playing at Amherst, 4 tackles in a game against Colby, a Brain Bowl game perhaps. All right, so that's our Dean's List, and that's another week.
Yeah, it's another wrap.
The Frenzy Extra. Kevin Shea, our thanks to Jim Wilson for being here as well. And of course, we'll see you next week, but we'll see you first Friday night, 10:25 on The Frenzy. Good night, everybody.